They're starting over. Jurors in Raj Rajaratnam's insider trading trial will restart deliberations, going back to square one after one juror was replaced for medical reasons. The jurors now will be forced to listen to recordings of wiretapped conversations all over again. Joining us to talk about how this development may affect deliberations and the potential outcome of the trial is Mark Rifkin. He's a partner at Wolf Haldenstein. Mark, you referred to the alternate juror as the new kid in school. Explain.
Well, he comes into a situation where there have been 12 jurors, now 11 jurors, who've been together for the past 7 weeks or so. They've listened to all this evidence together, and then they've been deliberating together. No doubt they've formed friendships, they've formed bonds. There are groups that have begun to associate among those jurors, and we have now a stranger. And we've all been in that position before, where we enter a group.
It's not unheard of to have not just a new man in any new group, but a new juror in an ongoing trial.
Happens from time to time. That's why there are alternates in juries.
What people want to know, though, in this case and typically, how does the entry of a new juror in a case that has been running for some time affect the state of deliberations and perhaps ultimately the outcome?
Well, ordinarily we say that when a new juror comes in the middle of a trial like this, in the midst of deliberations, it's unlikely that the new juror is going to have any significant impact on the deliberations, unless there's something unique about that new juror that would make us think that he's going to have some outsized influence over the jury deliberation. There's nothing particular about this juror's qualifications. He's not a lawyer, he's not a financial industry participant or expert, that would lead us to think that the other jurors would turn to him for expertise. But he does have an unusual personal background that maybe raises some questions about whether he'll have some unique perspectives. Well, he has had some family members who've had run-ins with the law. He has a brother who's incarcerated, he has another brother who was murdered, and he has a cousin who's in jail. And so the questions now arise whether those experiences, those family experiences, are going to influence how he looks at a criminal prosecution.
Is it likely, though? I don't know what his brother is incarcerated for. I don't know what his other brother may have been, murdered in connection with. Most criminal activity is not white collar. This is a white collar case. So can you draw a connection between criminal activity of another sort, if in fact that's what applies here, and white collar crime?
You can't necessarily, and one thing we need to keep in mind is that neither the prosecution nor the defense thought that the background that this juror has would be a reason to exclude him from serving. So they seem satisfied that he'll be able to impartially consider the evidence. And given that, again, as the new kid on the block, it strikes me that it's remotely likely, it's unlikely at all that he'll have much of an influence on the deliberations now, other than to drag them out some while he sort of catches up. I mean, we know they're going to go back and listen to some more tapes.
How long might that take?
Well, it'll probably take another 3 or 4 days, I would think, because they're listening to, they've asked for a dozen tapes. Some of them are new, but they're going to have to go back and listen to all those tapes now. We know that takes some time. It's a process that doesn't happen right away. So it will delay things a little bit, but other than that, in the grand scheme of things, I don't think it'll mean much.
Let's go back to where things stood before the juror was dismissed for medical reasons. Right. It seemed as though the deliberations were taking longer than many people thought. Now,
yes.
If in fact, okay, so that is the case in your opinion, what does that say about the way the jury is feeling towards, can you say whether it's because the longer it goes on, the more favorable it is to either the defense or the prosecution?
Hard to say. It's a guessing game. One thing I can say is that the jurors seem to be focusing on the evidence that the government thought was important, that I thought was important. These tapes are so critical to the case. And the evidence
the
they
defense
wanted to
knows
hear,
that they're important too.
Everybody knows they're important. And for the defense, it's really the elephant in the living room, because how do you run away from these tapes? Rajaratnam didn't take the stand, didn't try to explain them away. So the only sound of the defense that the witnesses really heard was Rajaratnam on those tapes. And I suspect that part of the reason why they want to listen to them is to make sure they understood what was said. As you know, a lot of the tapes involve people who speak with very thick, pronounced accents. I'm sure they want to make sure they understand what was really being talked about. They're being cautious. They're going through all that evidence. And I think the government's pleased with the fact that they want to listen to these tapes yet again.
Well, as you point out, as the new kid in class, this new juror has his homework cut out for him. Mark, thanks for joining us here on the Inside Track. Mark Rifkin, a partner at Wolf Haldenstein, talking to us about the Raj Rajaratnam insider trading trial, almost certainly to drag on for longer now.